Um, Next, don't say to stop being selfish or to start focusing on the needs of other people. The reason for that is because they already feel selfish. They already feel guilty for wanting and needing. And if you still say that they are selfish, they're going to take that as they failed. They haven't concealed their needs well enough. They haven't concealed their wants well enough. And so therefore they are worthless, and that just propels them right back into the disorder. They just use it as additional fuel. And also within that, people with eating disorders think about others constantly. They are constantly aware of the effects that it has on other people. They can see that, believe me. They can understand when mom and dad is stressed. It's very difficult because what is stressing out the parents or the friends, the eating disordered individual is going to, at least for a while, see as a necessary thing. So they're caught between a rock and a hard place. What is necessary is what's making everybody else unhappy, and they don't feel like they can move either way. But they are aware of where they're at. Also, don't say, like, if you're terminating therapy or something like that, or if you're a friend and you're frustrated, or you're a parent and you're upset, don't say things like, I'm done with you, or, you're too difficult to treat, or things like that. That's just to focus on the negative, and it makes a person with an eating disorder feel like you're just brushing them off, and that it's not important, that they're not important, or that you've given up on them, and you have no faith in their ability to recover or to get well. So instead, you can focus on, again, more positive ways of putting it, to just rationalize and say, when you do this, it makes me very upset because, those kinds of things. It's essentially just I language. I feel this way when you're doing this, and I interpret it this way. So it opens the lines of communication. If you're terminating therapy, still make it a positive thing. You can say something like, I promised as a therapist I would be an advocate for you, and based on my training, I feel that the best thing for you is to go to treatment center X. You can still communicate with me from there, but I honestly feel you'll do better there, and I want to do whatever is best for you. So, what do you think about that? Ask their opinion. Make it collaborative again. Don't just terminate and give no reason why and focus on the negative, by saying something like, well, your weight and your mental condition has deteriorated, and so I will not see you anymore. They're just going to focus on the fact you're getting rid of them if you say something like that. So really make an effort to make it a transition rather than an ending of therapy. Also, another big thing is related to all these concepts is realize that in general, an eating disordered person is always going to, in one way or another, be looking to confirm all the negative beliefs that they have. Weiss wrote very extensively on that topic, that people always seek to confirm the beliefs that they have, whether or not they are negative or positive. So understand that a lot of times they feel like they're worthless, they feel like they're ugly, and they will test you as a therapist or as a friend or a parent. It's not to say that the testing is intentional. A lot of times it's subconscious testing that they do. But it's just to say that their behaviors are rational in that sense. They're looking for answers. They're not trying to hurt anybody. They're just trying to say, is what I believe true? Yes or no. So be a little bit patient with them, because they're looking to confirm something that's very negative. And you've got to always be pushing them up and lifting them up. Specifically to parents and friends, don't ever give up on somebody who has an eating disorder. Even if they say, oh, just let me go, it's too hard, just don't give up. Even if it turns out for the worst, be there till the very last. Let them know that you never gave up on them. Specifically for parents, it's not probably your fault. There has been many research studies that show that in terms of dysfunction or bad parenting, there's no real evidence to suggest that it is your fault. There's no evidence that suggests that eating disordered individuals come from homes that are more dysfunctional than any others, or that the parenting style is any worse. So odds are you probably didn't make your child sick. And you need to understand that, because if you are too busy feeling guilty, you won't have the time and you won't have the mental capacity to actually help your child. Just focus on them. Don't worry about whether or not you caused it or whatever, because odds are you probably didn't. and just focus on what they need. Focus on your ability to be a parent, because chances are you are a good parent and you do have the capability to assist them in whatever they are going through. Also, just realize that they need an advocate, and as a parent, you know, that is part of your role, is to ensure that they do have somebody who cares about them, that who is taking care of their mental well-being, is looking out for them. So you can really be there in that sense. There's been research that shows that the typical forms of discipline that are used in for parents or by parents for children typically don't work with eating disorders. Things like locking cabinets, grounding, those revoking privileges, that simply doesn't work. And I personally believe that that is because it implies a certain level of, or it implies a lack of trust, that you as a parent don't trust them, or that they need to be punished or whatever. So they're always going to be taking it in a negative sense if you don't trust them and if you don't leave that behind. So my advice in that sense is just be as loving as you can. Be authoritative in the sense that you want to ensure that, yes, they will sit down at the table. Even if it's hard for them, you will have some kind of structure there for them. You won't give up on them. You know, that kind of authority. That you are the parent and you are going to look out for them, and that's the way it is. But aside from that, just understand that as for the individual with the eating disorder, it's very difficult, and just be patient with them and realize that they're going to make mistakes. Recovery is not something that is perfect, because we as human beings attempting recovery are imperfect. We are imperfect as human beings. Realize that they're not intentionally, they're not intentionally trying to hurt you through this disorder. This is their coping mechanism. Whatever problems they may have in their life, or however they view themselves, whatever has caused those views, you know, it's not necessarily a way to lash out at you. They're not necessarily doing it to make you feel like crap. They're doing it because they feel like crap in one way or another. So just be very, very supportive, be very, very patient. For parents and friends, there's also the issue of pro-eating disorder websites that I want to address just a little bit. I believe that the people who support the pro-eating disorders sites are, there's several kinds of people with eating disorders, in my view. There are the people who start out with a very negative sense of themselves, or develop a negative sense of themselves, and they honestly have the disorder as a coping mechanism. Those are the people that I am focusing on in this research. Okay? The people that I think focus on pro-ANA and pro-bulimia and things like that, they are seeing that they might not necessarily have that negative sense of self. If you go to those websites, they're very easy-handed about what they believe, and they're very active, and you know, so it gives them a sense of pride, you know, and maybe that's why they do those things. But in my view, that is something that is lacking, and so those cases of eating disorders, I think, are a little bit more of kind of warped dieting, and they're slightly different from what I'm discussing here. So, you know, in that sense, just understand that you might encounter that. As I said, it might be a sense of pride if they're going to that, you know, they're trying to gain a sense of community or something like that. If you find out that your child has been going to those kinds of sites, just talk to them about it. Ask them honestly, why do they believe that it's a positive thing to go to those. Talk to them about, you know, inspiration versus health and all those kinds of things. Ask them why they need that. Make it a very blunt discussion so that it is addressed, and it's not something that's just pushed under the rug. I do not believe that eating disorders are a lifestyle. I believe that they can start out as a form of dieting, but I do not believe that the majority of cases are simply diets. They are, for the most part, they do have that negative mindset behind them. That is what is referred to as typical eating disorders. The atypical eating disorders don't necessarily have that negative mindset behind them, and there is that differentiation.